Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Craig Leverington. I'm from Canon, UK and Ireland. I'm here today to talk to you, really, I guess, about a bit more technology and proposition. But before I do that, I'll return the thanks to IRMS for inviting us here today to talk to you. And also, one of the things I love about these things is the diversity of people that you find in the room. So we've had loads and loads of accents this morning, which is great. And now I'm afraid you're going to have to live with Essex for the next 20 minutes. But there is nothing I can do about it. So I do apologise. I just want to, by show of hands, who's heard of Canon before? Okay, I'd expect that. So equally, by show of hands, who's heard of Canon in terms of camera technology? I'd expect that as well. And we've got two Canon products on the side. Not ours, by the way, we didn't fix that. That's just the technology of choice from the audio-visual professionals. Who's heard of Canon in terms of print, copy, scan? Okay, so this is where it gets challenging. Who's heard of Canon in terms of information management and record management? Okay, so we'd expect that as well, and that's fine. It's a piece of technology, it's a product, it's a marketplace that we've been in for about 40 years. Typically, it's not a part of the marketplace that really gets marketed extremely well, but it's a product that we're very good at and we're very proud of. Because of that, we do quite a lot of research, or we go out and we invest in and support quite a lot of research. And there was a piece of research done by the AIM Association only a year and a half ago. And when we asked people why becoming paper-free in your organisation and processes is important, we got a wide variety of different responses, ranging from give me more control, to help me be more compliant in my organisation. So stop me being fined for stuff, stop me losing stuff. And please, can you help me do more with less, so become more productive. Now, the reason we're talking about this here today is clearly record management and document management is an important part of businesses and organisations. And the great thing for me, being in a corporate environment, coming and listening to some of the things that has been spoken about this morning, is it's fantastic to hear that there are people doing things to try and help the companies achieve some of those goals. So I want to tell you what information management looks like to us. Now, the worry about doing this sort of thing is we tell you what it looks like to us and you all say, no, it's definitely not like that. But we hope there's some form of synergy between the two of us. At the heart of everything we do, because we're a very customer-focused organisation, is the customer. And only 2 weeks ago, by the way, Canon as an organisation broke into the top 10 of recognised brands in the UK. 2 spaces above Apple, bizarrely enough. And I would have had Apple as the top of the tree, but we've broken into the top 10. So the customer to us is really the centre of everything we do. And what we know is that customers have information coming into their organisations on a daily, hourly, minutely basis. And when that information arrives, it gets analysed, classified, people work with it, they may store it, retrieve it and stick it away somewhere. At the same time that all of that's happening, they are creating, collaborating, sharing, making stuff in document and information. And then some of that stuff leaves their business. It goes out, it gets distributed, and it gets distributed in as many different formats as it does come in the business. And the way we look at that is we look at it in terms of what we call capture, process, deliver. So we're hoping that that kind of fits into your view of how an information works, or how an organisation works with information. As a business, we have software, hardware and services that helps those companies deliver on that set of processes. And I'm not going to go into the detail, but there's lots of ways in which we do that, whether that's providing capture technology in terms of hardware, whether it's optical character recognition software, be it printers, software to process stuff, or just people to help organisations get to this point. The very base level at which we operate as a business is in what we call managing documents. So if we can help you manage the paper and the electronic documents at a base level, that's where we see ourselves in terms of the absolute minimum that we can do. One step up from that, we then help organisations to automate processes within their business. So we know that organisations do a lot of process-driven stuff that in many cases is driven by the distribution of a piece of paper or the distribution of a piece of information. So we try to help automate those processes. The next step on the ladder is what we call business optimization. So effectively taking multiple processes that historically would be very disparate, getting them to work together to optimize the way that business functions. Now we don't mind where you join us on that journey, whether you join us at the bottom or you join us at the top. Ultimately, wherever you join us, the further up and the aims and aspirations of your organisation will increase the value of what we deliver. Does that all make sense? Does it fit in with your view of document lifecycle, work processes, information management in general? So unless someone jumps up and says no, I'm going to assume that's it. So what we then do is we divide the corporate world into a view of what we see businesses looking like. Now we know that every organisation has a finance and procurement function, an HR function, an operations function and a sales function. Now you may not have a dedicated group of 20 people working in HR, but someone in your organisation is doing an HR function. So that's kind of the four corners of the business structure and how it looks. And we have technology, some of you might, you can't really see that stuff, but we've got technology in the four corners and helping people to deliver in those different environments. And when you overlay our method of what the business workplace looks like, you can see that one slide effectively drives everything we do at Canon. Capture, process, deliver across every corner of a business and the way the business is run. So back to the AIM research, we then asked a massive sample of people, is becoming paper free something that as an organisation you have it as a key objective? 90% of the organisations said yes, whether that's in terms of process improvement, whether it's just in terms of general storage and distribution. 90% of the organisation said yes. So what a fantastic place we're all in to try and take advantage of that, whether that's a career opportunity, whether it's us as salespeople. It's a great situation to be in. So here's something interesting that came out of that. So 90% of all the organisations asked said, yes, we want to become paper free. So then we said to them, okay, right now, bearing in mind you've got an objective to become paper free, what are you doing to try and get there? What are you doing right now? You're laughing. Do you know what's coming?
I can guess because my company's going through it.
So, 42% of all of those organisations said, yeah, we're scanning stuff, but we're only doing it really ad hoc. We're just doing it when we need to. You know, there's no process. So one person might scan a lot, someone might not scan at all. So it's completely random as to how we're scanning and capturing information. How relevant is that to people in the room? Who's in the ad hoc place? So quite a lot of nodding heads. Okay. 26% of the people said we do scan, but we scan after we've processed. So again, there's nods and smiles and laughs. And so I've already done all the job, and now I'm going to store the document. Great. 21% said we scan in advance of the process. But interestingly, the people that scan in advance of the process typically get the document in, scan it before they work on it, and then work on it as a piece of paper. Fantastic, well done. Sorry, that's me being slightly patronising, but you know, that's okay, right? Only 10% of the people that we surveyed said they scan at the door. So immediately that document arrives in the business, they scan it. So how are those 90% going to become paper free without changing that? Because clearly, from our perspective, the further up that chain you go, the greater the value, number one, and number two, the more likely you are to achieve your goal of becoming paper free. And by the way, the more likely the people in the room are going to be able to deliver more value to those organisations, because that's what we're trying to drive. I'm not a lover of the term digital mailroom, I've got to be honest, because it tends to make people think, okay, is it just in the post room? It's a piece of terminology. We're ultimately talking about taking documents and working with them in a better way. And you've seen this already. For us, it's about capture, and that capture doesn't necessarily need to be a piece of paper on a scanner. It can be, but it can also be capturing the electronic document in their native formats. It can be capturing documents attached to or part of emails. It can be grabbing faxes before they get onto the piece of paper. It could be, as is often happening now, capturing information with a smartphone. As long as you can provide us with an image, we can work with it. The next phase, of course, I know you've seen it already, is process. So working with that document to make the information on it more valuable to you. And that is the key. The information is the key. And then finally, we deliver. Now, you may have thought earlier when I was talking about deliver, we're talking about deliver to people. So deliver out of an organisation, deliver to somebody. It's not necessarily about that. It may be delivering an image to a storage database. It may be delivering the information into a records management system. It may be delivering that information into a line of business system, be it finance, HR, whatever. We're taking that information from the page and delivering it to where it needs to be. The most powerful word on that screen is intelligent. So intelligent document capture, because we don't just capture stuff, we capture it in a way that says capture the information that's important. So effectively, I am going to talk about some technology for a minute, just because I think it's important for you to understand how much that technology has advanced over the past few years. Ultimately, what we do when we see an image, we take that image and we do a full page optical character recognition. So we take every character on the page. Now there is a distinct difference between full page optical character recognition and zonal optical character recognition. If I wanted to capture an address on that page, the simple thing to do is to say, look in the top right hand corner. The problem is if the address isn't in the top right hand corner, then I've missed the address. So we don't do that anymore. We capture the lot and then we work out what to do with it afterwards. We're multilingual, unlike me. We're multilingual, so we recognise 136 different languages at the moment, and we recognise every currency set based with each of those languages. And that includes Arabic, Cyrillics, left to right, up to downs, there's lots of them. And more importantly, we don't need templates to capture information. So if you think of something like, something simple like an invoice, you know, what we're not doing is we're not saying you'll find a value down here, a line item up here, and an order number up here. We don't do that anymore, we capture everything. What we then do is a process of document classification. So the classification of the document is critically important because it helps us understand what information we want to capture later on in the process. So we have an intelligent fingerprint technology that says, I know that document is one of those because of what it looks like. Not because of what's on the page, what it looks like. So the best way for me to help people understand that is if I took 100 documents and stuck them on this wall, quite a long way away from you, and said, tell me which one of those you could classify as proof of identity. I'm quite confident, without you getting up from your seats, you'd be able to find passports, driving licences and birth certificates. Can't read any of it because it's too far away, but you'd recognise them because of their look, and that's what we're doing here. By the way, there's an intelligent learning engine in there that if the system doesn't recognise something, you can try and train it on the fly, so teach it how to do it. We then say, okay, we know what type of document we've got. We've got every character on the document, so how do I work out the information that I need? So we work with our recipient to say what's the important parts of that document. And in this case, it's a date and a name of a recipient. And we look for them based on keywords, based on structure. There's some algorithms in there that say, it may look like a date, but just check it for me, just in case it isn't. So we intelligently identify information on the page. Having identified the information that we need, what we then do is we extract it for use later on. And the most simple way we use that information is to stick it away and store it and help you to retrieve it later on. That's the most simple thing we do. But we could be driving a process. So it could be payment for authorisation for an invoice, it could be the next step in an HR recruitment onboarding or offboarding process. It doesn't matter. Once we've got the information, we can use it. And the final thing we can do is we can integrate this technology with database lookups. So if there's information that's missing on the page that we know you need for the next step of your process, we can go and look for it. So you may know that this recipient of this document is Mark Adam, but they haven't put on that email or that letter that he works in the HR department. So you go and find the name Mark Adam in your Active Directory or in a database or in an HR product, and you pull it out to use it. And that's some of the technology that we use. As an organisation, we deliver that in terms of consultancy. So we work with you to get the best value out of what you need to do. Technology and integration specialists, both on-premise and in the cloud. So you can have this technology physically in your location, or you can just connect up to the Internet of Things and use it. We can deliver this as a managed service. So as an organisation, we do a lot of this work for you. Or finally, we do it as a fully outsourced service. So not your people, not your staff, we will do it all for you. So you can have this type of technology in a number of different ways. I'm very aware, by the way, that I am the only person between you and some lunch. So I am now going to wrap up. When asked why, so this is people that had already tried to take the move to document management automated process. When asked why, these are some of the reasons why people said they'd made that investment and the leap. And I'm not going to read them, but you can see the headlines. It's about reducing costs, being in control and being more compliant. All the things that we looked at on the first couple of slides. So again, hopefully, and I know you said you were going through this already.
Something like this.
You're trying to get there. Okay, that's superb. Is anyone else trying to take this journey? Okay, so there's a couple of you in the room, which is probably about right. There may be a strategy in the organisation that you work for to do it that will take a long time. You know it does take a long time to get there. But there are lots of things that people do. Process is important, and this is an example of a process that we manage. If you've got an organisation where a purchase order comes into the business, we know that that purchase order must be processed. We know that the goods must be delivered. We know that you've got to confirm an email to the customer, for example, and then ultimately, at the end of it, the process finishes, and there's a rule that says all of this needs to finish in 48 hours. Okay? Now, those processes exist in every single business. but they exist in here and on a piece of paper. What we do is we formalise and automate those processes, and we put them into a system so that they look something like that, and that's probably the simplest workflow diagram we had available to us that could fit on one page. Some of them are really, really complex, but they're very simple to design. They can have manual or automated tasks, and we can build conditions into all of those processes. But ultimately, we're looking at a way to drive compliance around the way you deliver those processes in your business. Document life cycle is critically important. The reason this is a circle is because it kind of doesn't matter where you jump in on that circle. You can jump in anywhere, but there is a logical order. So the logical order says you capture and index the document to start with. Once you've done that, you store it away somewhere and work with it. Whilst you've stored it, you can then make it available for search retrieval. People can then have workflows to be able to access and review and process those documents. The great thing about having technology is you can then analyse and run KPIs. So how long has that document been in the system? How long before it got a response to a particular question? Where was it for how long? And then finally, you get the retention policy, the destruction policy. You know, I ask businesses all the time, what's your retention policy on a particular document type? And almost everyone can respond. 6 years for this, 7 years for this. If you're in the construction industry, 21 years for that. Everyone can tell me how long they've got to keep a document for. How many people can tell me how long they're not allowed to keep a document for? No one. That is fantastic. I'm really impressed.
Well, you can if you've done an analysis of the business, because the law says you can only keep certain things for a certain length of time.
Correct.
Because it goes the 2 ways.
So we talk to organisations all day, every day, and they can't answer those questions for us. You know, I reckon about 2% of the people we speak to can answer that question, but they can all answer the I'm going to keep it for 21 years. So just a very, very high level before I finish. We provided this type of technology to a major law firm in the UK. Do you know them? Good. So DWF, a reasonably big organisation. Effectively, their key challenges were, number one, my business is massively paper intense. You know, if you think about the legal environment, everything is on paper. And really, the legal environment is probably one of our biggest challenges, because historically, lawyers would always say, show me the paper, show me the wet signature, show me the original document. The reality is life is changing, and it's changing really, really quickly for everyone. Paper-intensive business. They were massively legislated, so everything that they did was focused in law, as you would imagine. And they had multiple offices around the UK, so it was really difficult for them to collaborate with pieces of paper. It was hard, it was difficult. So we worked with them to deliver a solution that said, let's help you change that. And ultimately what we delivered, and this is probably important to say that these are their words, not ours. You know, we delivered a far greater level of efficiency for them, so collaborative working was much more powerful. They reduced their office storage by 50%. They saved just over £1 million by doing things differently. So they didn't have people moving around. They didn't have technology distributing stuff. They used our technology to deliver that. And what's really great is, as a result of the deployment of our technology, they achieved a 3-year goal of ISO 27001 for data security and compliance. So they'd been pushing that for 3 years, and our technology helped them get over the edge. So this is us. In terms of information management, our mantra is productivity, compliance, take control of your information. And that's me finished. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions or a rapturous round of applause, either either.